Hey everybody, I just kind of wanted to do like a desk vlog. So my desk kind of ends up like this after a while, like a week or two, after I clean it. And, you know, it's because I'm in the process of doing projects and stuff, and I guess I thought if I clean it with you, I can kind of go over the stuff, some of the stuff that I've been working on. So today's the 25th of October 2017, and this is Desk Vlog 001. I guess I'll start with this because this needs to come out and get taken care of. I have a networking gig in a couple days, so I already have a crimp and a you know, standard networking tools. I have a punch down tool and whatnot, but I still haven't gotten a cable tester or a toner, so I ended up getting this, which is actually all in one. Here's the manual. I probably won't read this, so trash. I did notice, of course, that these do take 9-volt batteries. They all have a tendency to do that. So, luckily, I did end up getting a whole pack of 9 volts. We'll see in a second. I got a big pack of 9-volt batteries. That is way out of fucking sync. God damn it. How the fuck do I get that to be in sync? Well, I guess I'll try to sync this afterwards. Anyways, I got a whole bunch of 9-volt batteries. And I will need 2 of them for this. That's not even... I think that might be half of them. I got one over here for my postage scale. Do I have a knife around here? I'm always losing my knife. Oh, here we go. No, that's it. I need a new blade. Time for an upgrade on the blade. So we gotta get this here. This one too. And we'll throw trash away while we're trying to clean the desk. That goes into there. Yeah, so I was trying to get a 9-volt battery for my scale, and I just kept pushing it off, and finally got it into one of my Amazon orders. I bought a whole bunch of them. Luckily, I ended up using a lot more than I expected. I only needed one at the time, but I ended up getting this. There are a couple other things that needed 9-volt batteries. It's just a mess. I fucking hate 9-volt batteries. I don't know why we still use them. Although, speaking of which, I might actually have them here. Oh yeah, the magnets came from my other project for making an 18650 setup. So we want to, let's check tone. On off. Scan. So this actually came with some pigtails. Of course I put them somewhere and I don't remember where. Oh, they're right here. Huh. So I got some pigtails here. Test the toning feature. Ultimately, we want to test tone light is not coming on. Does it need an actual connection? It might actually need a connection. I haven't done this in a while. There's a light color there. Huh. Toner doesn't work. Interesting. Continuity. Yep, that works. Tone does not freaking work. Scan. Is that what scan is? No. Interesting. Interesting. So, network cable. Ultimately, I needed this for network cable functionality. We'll see if check the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Scan mode, tone mode, already tone. What does this test button do? I guess we're fishing this out of the trash. German, brief description. Keep in mind, guys, this was cheap AF, so this isn't a Klein tool by any means. Although I do have some Klein tools, it's not worth it to me to, for this type of tool, it's not worth it for me. I'm not doing that many, you know, this isn't like my full-time job, so let's see. Wire tracing. Continuity check-in, network cable, line level, positive location, continuity, status of telephone line test. Okay, wire tracing. To scan position. Okay. A nice little LED light in there. That's cute. Like, I hear it coming on. Turn the emitter, scan, power on the receiver, and hold the receiver on the other end. Do I need to put the headphone in? No, I hear it. I hear the speaker. Oh, there it is. I was turning the volume the wrong way. See, I was thinking that was max volume because it was up, but it's volume pushed for this way for volume. That's got it. Alright. This is kind of a piece of shit, but it works. Does what I need it to do. I don't know what tone is. Toning is network. Use emitter only to test the status of working telephone lines. Operation method to judge tempering. Use emitter only to test telephone lines. Oh, okay. It's just called something different. It's usually called a toner, so scan is... Okay. Tone is... Oh, it actually tells you what the status of a telephone line is. I don't need that, really. Interesting. So, and then it's got continuity checking, which is good to just have. That's a pretty standard function of like a multimeter. So, yeah, not bad. $25 on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below, and you can get this. Good. I'll be testing the Wi-Fi and hardwire network of a large apartment community apartment building that has 4 floors, multiple access points, wireless access points, and some of the higher floors access points are not doing too well. So we're going to see if there's any hardware issues, single out hardware issues, and then go into and see if there's any router issues as well. So that's what this is for. This can go outside to my toolbox. So that's almost ready. These are cool. Now, I might use this for something else, but it's good. I think it's going to be cool to have this around. This is going to go up into, this is a clock movement. There we go. Show you kind of what's going on here. I think I still need to print one more part. So, this is all going in this bin up on the shelf shortly. So this is going to be like an XYZ table. Yeah, I still have to do the column here. So this goes in here. I'm going to need to, this will go in here, and this will be, so you'll have X, Y, and then a Z axis. This is your Z. That's a lot bigger than I expected it to be. So, and then you put a Dremel in here, and then, or that way, you put a Dremel in here, and then these are your screws. So these screw through here, and then you actually just have like a tiny little milling machine for whatever you want to. So if I need to clean up molds or positives, I can do that with this. So I'm going to go in there for now because I need to print some extra parts for that. So these were, I have an Altoids tin container, and I had these two in there, but I ended up 3D printing. Let's see if I have it here. I ended up 3D printing something that I found on Thingiverse, so I can organize all these things. So it's just kind of a pain in the ass to go in here, open this, and then have to open this, or this. Now everything that I need is all separated. I have my meds separated, some Excedrin for my headaches. I got a USB drive, a couple adapters, flash drive that runs off of micro SD, and then a USB version of that as well. So like a Kingston micro reader. This thing is super cool, so it's super tiny. And it's got a little 32, I think I got 32 gig card in there. So this is my couple, like a micro USB to USB-C, micro USB to mini USB, because unfortunately these still exist. So I have all those in there. But these were the old containers, and I'm just gonna put these. I have a little bin over here for containers, and then yeah, that's starting to get full, so that might end up getting moved elsewhere. This HDMI cable is part of this little computer over here, which you'll see momentarily once I get this all cleared up. I had just brought out some extra zip ties, which were for this computer over here. These trays are really nice, although I think I might end up doing a different storage system for like random stuff that's around. Also, these parts need to find a home. These will probably just end up in the random bin outside. These were from, I had to fix the kettle because it was leaking, and then it actually leaked so much that it got into the base and got the circuit board wet. But I was able to dry that out and get that fixed. So these are some extra parts that they were broken anyways, like the top's broken, so this is the button to open the top and everything, so that stuff just needs to find a home eventually, but it'll just go over here for now. Some M4 screws that were over here can go over there. A couple tools. I do have a to-go outside box. Always have a to-go outside box. While I'm at it, going to replace that. That is broken, and when it's broken, I can't do my favorite thing in the world, which is this. And that allows me to see it. Alright. Some LEDs, some random LEDs. These are just going to go into like the random. Got a couple random piles around here. Needle. Now these are also for. Well, these I got to cut wire. So, actually, I'm gonna test this out. These are mainly used for like network wires and whatnot, but I realized that they'd be good for something like this. These are micro USB pigtails that I got. So these are for another project that actually this project that I'm working on, which is a lamp, and then this is gonna go. Actually, I have a few lamps that I'm working on. This is one of them. This is another one. This is a larger one. And my other one is, I think that prototype has been dismantled at the moment, but I'm going to start using these and molding these into the concrete bases. And sometimes they need to be shorter, so I'll end up cutting it and then go around like this to get this outer shell off. Oh gosh, that's so perfect. Yep. One of the best AliExpress purchases ever. These were like, oh gosh, I don't even remember. They've got to have been, they couldn't have been more than like 35 cents a piece. I think, or maybe $1 a piece. I would be surprised if they were $1 a piece. In fact, I'm not gonna take the time. I'll put a link in the description. You can go buy like 10 of these for cup of coffee or something. So actually, I'm glad I did that. That's my first proof of concept that does work for when I need them to. And I'm gonna put a couple in my little organizer here. I got a couple in my main tool bag, and then I got a couple in my overflow tool bag as well. Vape. Always gotta have your vape. I got a whole bunch of these LEDs, these chunky LEDs, and they're all UV. They're all really high high power, higher power, you could say. But like I plug these in and they get pretty bright. These are UV bulbs, so I might just make a panel at some point to just like a battery powered panel. I don't know what I'd ever use these for, but I have them, so they're here. And if you're in the Oakland area, actually, you're more than welcome to come take a handful of them if you want to as well, with priority to queer and trans and POC. So keep that in mind. That's kind of what I've been doing with Queered, is like I have a bunch of this stuff and I've been making projects and I've been buying like 12 of everything, or in the case of magnets, like 55 of everything. You know, I have a bunch of different sizes and stuff. So, and you're welcome to come and like use this stuff. It's not just for me. You know, I prototype some stuff. You know, some of the stuff is within, you know, like these clocks. I'll probably use all of these clocks for more of these bases that I'm selling with them. But if you want a clock, I can show you where to get them. There's the link in the description if you want to buy them yourself. So, these are the headphones that came with the thing. I don't think I'll ever use them, but they can go outside and go in the rando bin. You're more than welcome to come and check my rando bin, because it is full of awesome randomness. This is a friction arm. It's going to be used over here. I have, you know, I kind of rearranged my desk recently and am making this kind of a photo/work area, and then I got my computer over here. You can see my keyboard and mouse, but I end up working, you know, doing kind of ongoing stuff ends up in the middle here. And this was probably going to be for a light that goes over there, but I think I'm going to pop it in here for now. Oh, you know what? I have a video bits bin up here. That's going to go in the video bits. Perfect. That goes up there. Some random screws. SD card reader. Breadboard. Breadboard can, well, these LEDs can go in a rando, and the breadboard can go up here, and these leads can go back in their home. I have a little rack of leads here. Got some pliers. This should stay with the tester. I guess I'll quickly talk about this that I brought up a little bit earlier. This is kind of an expansion on some of my work that I've been doing with 3D printing and concrete molds. I just had the switch. I was playing with the switch. What did it do with it? Of course I lost it again. This is what happens to me all the time. Anyways, so this is a lamp. This is the bottom of the lampshade. The lighting will go in here. Here's the top, and there's some other pieces in here too. But let me drink some. That's really fucking good. Anyway, so this will be the top. I'm actually going to reprint this in black. I just wanted to get a closer proof of concept in a certain amount of time. So here's the top. Excuse me. I might have to sand this down a little bit more so you can hear it kind of moves like that. And I had a switch around here somewhere. Should have been just in here. I might have grabbed it and started stimming with it, and just like set it down somewhere completely random. So I do that. Anyways, the switch that I have is on a piece similar to this. So this is the bottom piece, and this piece will rest in here, and the other piece will rest a little bit higher, right, and holds the switch. And then I have these which go in here. So tomorrow, what I'm going to do is actually put these in with heat. So I'm going to take my pliers and take the blowtorch and heat these up a little bit and stick them in there, because right now they just thread in, but the thing is I can't thread in two ways. So if I thread in to that hole, then I'd back it out when it went into this hole. So I think a heat set is probably going to be the best bet for this concept, and it'll allow me to kind of the reason I did this in 2 parts, or 3 parts I guess, I did have a version of this where this whole thing was just a lattice structure. There were 3 axes. I still have that design, and I might go back to it. It's possible I might go back to that design, but I'm trying this version because it's modular, and plus I can it allows for when I put this in here, it allows for any variation in the 3D printing process, so I can actually have some margin of error and correct for that by using the heat set process. And then same with when I do this one as well. With these are going to be longer pieces, and then these are actually the LEDs that are going to go in here. So once those are in, once the whole thing is in there, these are going to get mounted 1, 2, 3. This will have here's an example. This is from the other prototype that I was talking about. So this is a lens that was 3D printed with clear filament, and it's just a couple millimeters. It's probably not even 2 millimeters. It's probably 0.8 millimeters or 0.6 millimeters. So something like this will go over the top, but instead, so the version for this, the post comes out the side, but for this one, the post is going to be in the middle and connect to this. Then the post comes down, and then we have a flat base, flat base that has our electronics coming through, our micro USB cable coming through this, comes through and connects to everything, connects to the switch, and then connects to the lights, and then it's nicely hidden underneath the concrete base, in which I made a 3D printed mold for. So the base is molded, the mold for the base is 3D printed, and that's curing right now. It's actually the second try. The first one I think dried way too fast and it cracked. This time I did a thicker mold, and I put glass fiber in it, and I covered it with saran wrap, so plastic wrap, so that the water, the moisture content will stay even in there, and it will cure a little more, quite a bit more slowly, and not shrink so fast, which will cause cracking. Plus the glass fiber will reinforce it and also prevent cracking as well. So hopefully that one turns out, and I can get this prototype done tomorrow, which means I can show it to you next time I do this one, hopefully, unless somebody buys it on Saturday, which is a possibility. I don't think anybody's going to buy it on Saturday because it's going to be expensive. Still not sure where to price this at, but we will see what works and what is good. So that goes in there, that goes in there. I still need to find that fucking switch. Here it is. Here's the fucking switch. Yeah, let's talk about switches for a second. I really like switches, so I want you to listen to this. That's so good. So, it's actually been pretty extreme. So here's a set of switches. Here's the same switches. Let's talk about switches for a minute. I have about 5 more bags of these. Is this the same one? Oh no, those aren't the same switches. Those are a little bit different switches. Okay, so we got these. Those are those. These switches are fun. I'm not sure what I'm going to use these for yet. I might. Actually, I think I have a flashlight design that will be perfect for it. But that might be a while. Actually, that's going to coincide with the battery system that I'm working on. Here's another one. That was an alternate to this, and we'll see. See, this one sounds like the most solid and has like a tougher return. It's definitely a lot. That one doesn't even have a kickback. Oh, that one. This one's broken. Oh, bye, buddy. This is why we buy. This is why we buy multiples of everything. So, yeah. So we got a bunch of switches. I love switches. A fuck ton. And this is. I probably have like 5 different more versions of switches. Actually, yeah, I do. So, this is kind of like the original. So this is actually a longer term project that I'm working on. That is a exhaust for soldering. So I make these soldering stands, and here's kind of a custom version that I've been using myself, where I drilled out a spot for my solder and my soldering iron. Although the thing is that the soldering iron just ends up living in here. I don't know if that's a good or bad practice, so this would probably be thrown away or recycled. I want to integrate maybe something like this into this system, and so I've been using these flexi bits for a long time, and I figured I wanted to make something that will additionally help me in addition to this solder stand. And the thing is that this could be built into that as well at some point, but I do want to make it just like by itself at first. And I'm thinking the first version will probably just come like this with a USB port. I'm still figuring out how the best way to design this is to get the most efficiency out of it. This will obviously have a filter on the back, and so speaking of switches, we'll have switches here, one for the fan and one for the LED light array that's going to be on the bottom of this. So I mean, that's what that is. And it's very hot today, so luckily I have this prototype working, and I can just blow this at me. And I'm sorry if that's picking up on the microphone as well. We'll see if that's a problem. So this is just going to get put over here for now, because this is going to get picked up tomorrow. I'm just going to pick up some of this, like, I got super glue everywhere. do with this. So like, this is what sucks, is that like I have these cob LEDs. I'm not sure exactly how to determine which one is the right one. These are the 5 watts. I'm going to assume that this is a 5 watt because it's got 4, it looks like 4 diodes in there. So yeah, that's a 5 watt for sure. This is probably a 3 or a 1 watt. So I'm going to be testing, I've been testing a whole bunch of different LEDs for this and the the baby sister to that big lamp. So I've actually made a version of this, a design where it's just a micro USB lamp, and it's got a concrete base, and it uses one of these flexi bits to do it. So I'm trying to get as much output power as I possibly can out of 5 volts USB. Especially since I have like 2 amps to work with. Plus, we need to start thinking about the temperature envelope, the heat envelope of, you know, I'm putting these diodes, which are dissipating a fuck ton of heat and light, and how to dissipate that out of an enclosed 3D printed structure, especially PLA, which has a low glass transition temperature, meaning that it'll likely get as hot as like the inside of a hot car on the inside, and at that point it might start doing weird things. So we want to keep that temperature low, or at least keep it ventilated. With this has already got that figured out. As long as we're bringing air through here and out, it's going to bring a lot of that heat with it as well. So get rid of some of these LEDs and talk about one of the last things here. So this is just a Surface dock for my Surface. My Surface will end up popping onto here, and then I'm still working on it, but there is a template that was poorly implemented. I didn't design this. This is not my design. It's like a 2-year-old design in Thingiverse, and I'm putting it together, and the template they want you to cut out looked like it fit on legal paper, but it didn't. It was actually scaled down the wrong size, and I made the whole thing go to put it together, and it's not the right size. The holes didn't line up, the board was like to here, so I'm just trying to eventually get this set up, because then this will attach to my monitor arm, and then I'll be able to just pop my Surface next to my computer, my other monitor, my 4K monitor, which is connected to my MacBook Pro, which is underneath the desk, and then I can have like a nice little dual monitor system with Mac and Windows on the side. And since I'm running two laptops, I might need a little bit of off processing and definitely data management, because laptops are generally short on data, and that's where this comes in. This is going to be my new NAS. So I need to unwrap this. Anyways, ooh, okay. Maybe not the best mounting solution. Okay, anyways. So, I was lucky enough to get this boss-ass computer. So this is a Intel Core i5 6500. So this is So we're coming up right now, the 8 series processor are coming out. And this is a 6 series processor. I just had a 6 series i7, and somehow an i5 of the same version came back around to me in the right form factor that I wanted. I was already thinking about doing this build. I was planning this build. I've been planning this build for a long time. I just never had the right hardware. I was planning on doing it with much lower hardware. I even have a laptop that I found that's a 3 series i5, and was planning on doing it with that, albeit with my current NAS involved as well. But this is a beefy machine. This is exactly what I need. The great things, I just want to point out a few things. I've already, so let's start with, oh, the cat wants in. Sorry. Come on, buddy. Alright, where was I? Anyways. Alright, some great features about this. Oh, and mind you, so I got the processor and the motherboard for free. And GeForce GTX 980 for free. For free. I don't know what I did right in the world, but this machine runs beautifully just like this, and then you throw this in, and then we start with a whole new world of possibilities. But let's talk about this setup first. This we'll talk about in a second. So this motherboard is great. Now it's got it's a pretty recent motherboard. It's a mini ITX, which is great because it's that's pretty much the form factor I want anyways. I want a smaller machine because eventually I'm going to be, once I get the hardware side figured out, I'm actually going to start working on a custom case for this with drive bays on the front that you can like hot swap and whatnot. Obviously, I don't know that you can hot swap them, but you can shut it down and then pop the drive out from the front rather than having to open the case and everything. So keeping the PC side of the components at a minimum is really big for me. Mini ITX. I bought, the only thing so far that I've bought is this 8 gig stick of DDR4 RAM, which is probably all I need for what I'm setting it up on, which is called a software called Unraid. Right now I just have 2 hard drives, just some old laptop hard drives, or 500 gig laptop hard drives. I'm just going to use this to start playing around with the system, get Plex set up, get things just like in order the way I want them, and make sure like this is really the system that I want to set up before I start taking data off of my old NAS and putting it onto this NAS, or at least figuring out how to take those drives, like transfer off that data onto, like, let's say a hard drive, which I'm going to have to do, take all those drives, clear them, set them up for this NAS, and then take that data and then put it on this NAS. So one of the great thing is there are 6 SATA ports. So we have 2 like SATA 3 connectors right here, and then we have another 4 that are set up for a SATA Express connection, which I'm pretty sure SATA Express is, I've never actually seen SATA Express on any like actual hardware. Do you want to talk to me? Want to say hi? This is Tiger, everybody. Say hi to everybody. He just wants to cry and yell and get hair all over my new machine. No, you can't be up here. Sorry, buddy. You have to get down. Bye, love. So, where was I? So SATA ports. So I got two SATA ports here, four SATA ports here, which are in a configuration for SATA Express. So basically, you have two SATA ports and then like a connector port, or like a binding port, I'm thinking, or a controller port. It's basically the USB 3.0 B mini, with that mini, that micro, or the micro B port that was used for a short period of time before we realized how stupid it was that they were on Samsung phones for a hot minute. Just the wider micro USB port that supported USB 3.0, until we realized we just needed a whole new standard, which point we moved to USB-C, which is still being propagated right now. So, but interestingly enough, I feel like SATA Express is going to be that. It's just going to die. I've never seen it on any hardware, so I'm just going to use it as intended for the four SATA ports there, the two here. Now here's the kicker, is that since I'll probably be using this for the 980, if I end up using the 980, if the 980 doesn't get used, it's going to be passed on to another queer person. So the thing is I need two more SATA ports. So this is probably going to be used for the graphics card. I have an M.2 slot on the bottom for an SSD. So there's a 1 terabyte SSD in there, and that's going to be used for a cache drive. The thing is I need another two SATA ports for my my array, so I can have 8 disks in here, and that's where this comes in. And this is the Wi-Fi card, and it's just mounted in another M.2 port. Now, M.2 ports, from my understanding, are just X4 slots. Let me see if I can move that over a little bit, because I'm standing over here a little bit. Anyways, these are just miniaturized versions of PCI Express X4 slots. This is an X16 slot. You can put X4 in there, you can put X1 in there, you can put X8 in there, but this is just an X4 slot. So I've already found two versions of this card. One for $17, $18, I can put two additional SATA ports in this slot, or for 50 or 60 bucks. I still need to do a little bit more research, but from my early exploration, for 50 or 60 bucks, you can put 4 ports on there, and it's probably more than doubly expensive, mainly because you have to get an off-board SATA controller onto that chip. The pictures that I've seen of it are have like a heatsink on it, and it's a pretty beefy chip. I mean, I'm not surprised that it's $60, but I'll probably start with just the 2-port one for $17 or $18, and then if I need to upgrade that and get 10 slot to get an additional 2 SATA ports, that's always an option. So this is a nice machine for NAS. Like, this just alone, without the graphics card, I could use this port for something completely different, maybe like a capture card for video stuff. I could use it for, so like, maybe I'm doing some live switching and I want like the final to come in here with a capture card, and it just dumps to my NAS, and I can work on it off of a VM that's on the NAS, and all of that stuff is available in Unraid. And now that's where the cool stuff comes in. That's where this GTX 980 comes in, is that Unraid allows you to run, you run this layer, you boot into Unraid. That's what's on this card, or this USB drive. So it boots from the memory stick, and then it loads itself into RAM, and then it stays in RAM. It very rarely writes back to this. There's some config files that might get written back to this, but it's all in RAM, and then you can actually start putting, so in Unraid, you manage your drive array. So you manage, you tell it what your cache drive is. So my cache drive's underneath here on a M.2 card. It is only running, it is only a SATA based M.2 card, not an NVMe SATA 2 card. So it's fast, but it's not wicked fast like NVMe is. So I'm getting, the SATA bus kind of tops out at 500 or 600 megs a second, but the cache drive is mainly to increase write speeds to the NAS itself. So when I'm sending data to the NAS, it's writing it to the cache drive and not to the array, because the array, when you write to the array, it's actually calculating parity, which is used for protection of that drive array on the fly as it's doing it. So you're going to run into, I've heard people running into problems of 35 megabits a second, and that's just not going to cut it for me. So we got this, that was actually still left over from my previous build. I had actually bought an NVMe drive for it that didn't work for my setup, which was a Hackintosh. So when I sold it, I gave them the NVMe drive because they were expecting to use Windows, in which it would work. And then I held on to the 1 terabyte SATA-based M.2 card, and that's underneath there for my cache drive. Additionally, for now, I'm going to use these two drives. I'll have a parity drive and I'll have a basic drive. Right now, it just doesn't. It's probably just the equivalent of like a RAID 0 or RAID 1. Is it RAID 1 or RAID 0? Mirroring is RAID. I don't remember. RAID 1. Then I can start, after that I can start adding my storage, and then I just got a generic power supply that I had laying around, and I'm not even sure that this power supply is going to run this GTX 980. So you may have heard me stumbling earlier over a couple other features of Unraid. Unraid is really cool for like, you can actually start running virtual machines. So I can run any OS in its own container on this system and pass it hardware. So this isn't your standard like virtualization on top of like an operating system where you're virtualizing pretty much everything. You're virtualizing some things like hard drives, space and stuff. Like most of the time you're going to run a small virtualized disk drive off of like the cache rather than passing it a hard drive, but that is something that you can do. And one of the cool things is you can directly pass the video card to the virtual machine and use it like a desktop. So I can pass keyboard, the graphics card, and a mouse and stuff, and have a fully fledged operating system and connect it to a keyboard, mouse, and my monitor, and use it as if nothing else was running on the system. Obviously, there is going to be some performance hit to the machine as if it was the machine itself, compared to just running that operating system on the metal, but it's very slim. From what I've heard, it's very slim. If you want to find out more about Unraid, the first time I heard about Unraid was through Linus Tech Tips, which is a YouTube channel based out of Canada, and they did one of these machines. It was a large, obviously a larger motherboard, so they were able to put 2 graphics cards in it, and a dual processor dual processor motherboard. So they're actually able to give one processor to one VM and one processor to another VM, and one GPU to one VM and one GPU to the other VM, they were actually able to hook 2 monitors to the system, 2 sets of keyboards and mouse, and actually run 2 fully fledged games against each other on the same machine. And then they beefed it up and spent like 50 grand and did it with 8 processors, 8 GPUs, 8 4K monitors, and it's probably one of the coolest things. But like the thing about this is that like I can keep this computer here. I don't even have to have a monitor on it. I can VNC into it, or even further, I could probably, if I wanted to do games. So most of the time I'd VNC into it, but if I wanted to do games, I can use something like Streamlink, I'm sorry, Steam in-home streaming, where the power's on here, and I'm at my TV in the bedroom with the controller or whatnot, and I'm playing on the TV using this GTX 980 and this i5 off of a virtualized Windows instance that is just running on my NAS. How fucking cool is that? Like, that's super cool. Additionally, main reason I wanted to do this project was for Plex. And I had built a FreeNAS back when I lived in Michigan, and you know, I had a drive failure as is common on a NAS. You know, I have drive failures all the time. Luckily, I'm smart about how I keep my data backed up, and one of the main reasons why I'm building this. But with FreeNAS, there's so much done in the command line, and it doesn't work for me. So I was really excited about the Synology NAS because it's on all-in-one machine. It looked like it had a really nice UI, and it does. But you're putting like this kind of like desktop type of interface where you're dragging and dropping everything. You have windowed stuff into a web browser, and it seemed a little excessive. It was nice at first, but like everything is an extravagance. So like every time it's almost a similar problem to the command line, but like in the opposite way, where like there's too much UI, and it's been so much. Also for Plex, Plex Media, for it wasn't capable. It just doesn't have the processing power to really handle Plex. And this, even without the GPU, should do be more than enough for a Plex server. I'm sure we can go back to a first gen or second gen Core i5 and get really good performance off of something like that and the setup. So this is going to handle it just fine. But like the great thing is that I've been watching a lot of tutorials about the user interface and how things are set up within Unraid, that I'm already in love with the UI and the way things are set up. Everything's in its own Docker container. There's no difference, in Synology there was a delineation between plugins for the system, and I think there still is some delineation for plugins for the system and Docker containers, but most of the stuff is running on Docker containers. And there's community applications, like community builds specifically for Unraid of some things like Plex Server and Couch Potato and all these other great media interaction and media management software pieces. Also, you can set up Dockers for things like Handbrake, so you can just throw a bunch of media files at it and it'll do a queue for media files. Just like it offloads, this will offload a lot of processing power where I can just say, hey, server, process this data, and then it'll just end up where it is, where it needs to be. And I think that's going to be a real boon, and especially as I move into building my businesses, running a lot of different software and testing out a lot of things. I can test operating systems on here and different virtual machines and all that type of stuff, and it's just going to be really good. And I think this would have been sufficient, but with this on top of it, we're just at a whole new level. So this is my project for the next few months. This is one of my bigger projects for the next few months as I move over a lot of data. Right now I've been just kind of going through my data. My data has been very, very all over the place, and I have duplicate copies of everything because my organization methods change every other time I try to get to this, but I think I'm really trying to get through this right now so that before I even get to the part where I'm ready to start transferring the data from there to this, and it's going to be another month probably before that happens. I'll probably send over some test data that's still saved on there, but I think for now, I think it's gonna be a while before I get all that data over there, and I'd rather have it in order before I move it to here, and then this can just be my thing moving forward. I think the main thing I like about this is that I still have access to the hardware too. So like the Synology is completely proprietary. You can barely upgrade the RAM on one of those machines, and it's just, if I want to upgrade my processor, I can upgrade my processor. I mean, this is still this socket that this processor is on is still an active socket. I'm just really excited for this, and I'm also really excited for the project on building the case for it, with the drive bays underneath it, figuring out how to properly enclose this, and how to actually build a backplane system. So I'll be buying a server backplane and then creating my own docking system for it as well. So it's late. I'm probably rambling, so I'm going to let you go. We've been on for an hour now, so I think that is probably good time for a video blog and cleaning up my desk. So I'm gonna leave it to that. Like and subscribe if you like this. I think this is gonna be kind of a new format moving forward because I just do not have time to edit videos. I'm still working on some sync issues. I'm gonna actually have to resync this after the fact, so like even that is kind of a pain. Hopefully, actually, this might actually be a cure for that, because then I can leave this over here, and this can be a dedicated system specifically for capturing my webcams for this, and then they'll be on the server, and I won't have to fuck with them. So, anyways, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. My handle is @Clomads. It's right up there. Been there the entire time. Probably change this setup a little bit, but we'll see what the deal is. Yeah. I guess I'll catch you in the next one. Oh yeah, buy shirts from Queered. My, this company. Buy shirts from these guys, queered.com. Peace.